Welcome to another chat, episode 62 on Awakenings. So, this chat is going to be controversial because we're going to be speaking about gender, pride, and race. So, I try not to speak for any more than 5 hours or so. Anyway, no, we'll try and keep it as short as possible, but there's so many directions and so many angles you can look at this.
Yeah.
And we'll start and see where it goes, and to touch on it because obviously there's a lot of things going around with these topics. And like I've got friends of mine that are bat for the same team. I probably shouldn't say that. Maybe I should. Anyway,
I just did.
I got friends that bat for the same team, and some friends that don't have bats at all. And that's all fine. And like there is no judgment. Like I said, I know I've got some great friends, some people very close to me that that aren't traditional. Let's put it that way. Traditional values still, but they're drawn to the same sex, and that's never had an issue with it at all. As long as we're respectful, and I wouldn't expect them to be touchy-feely come onto me as I wouldn't a woman, and they don't. And I'm just saying that because people might say you're transphobic, homophobic. Hobo. I said hobophobic. I'm not a phobic of hobos either. If you're in the streets, and
love them all.
Love them all for sure. Yeah, homophobic, hobophobic, all that stuff. So, yeah, it's just about respecting everyone and not projecting anything onto anyone. If I don't give attention or the right sort of attention to a guy, for example, if he was being flirtatious with me, it'd be just as wrong for me to expect a woman to acknowledge me if I was flirting with her, or a woman to acknowledge a woman that was flirting with me. I remember, it's interesting. So I go on a bit of a tangent sometimes, but you get that. And I remember when I was sort of 18, 19, I caught a train into the Cross, King's Cross in Sydney with my mate I worked with. I hadn't really gone in there much before. Actually, there's a funny story, but I probably can't tell that one at the moment. Maybe another time. So, well, actually, I went there when I played for New South Wales Schoolboys, and we went on a 18-day tour. We're undefeated, so I was playing for New South Wales combined high schools. And for part of this tour, we stayed in Sydney. And we all went to the Cross, and we were probably about 17 on average. None of us were 18 anyway. We were all at high school. So yeah, so we went out to the Cross, and we didn't do anything stupid. Well, I didn't, but anyway. So I don't know if I probably shouldn't. I'll tell it. On the bus on the way into the Cross, and obviously not sanctioned by the teachers or the public school, of course, which maybe it was because it was ahead of our time, because obviously the schools like teaching sexual stuff. The UN agenda of teaching sexuality from pretty much the day you're born, disgusting. So we're catching a bus into King's Cross, and we all put our numbers from our jersey number into the hat, and the last number drawn out gets money. Like everyone put $10 in, and or something like that, or $5, and the last number drawn out, the money went towards a prostitute. And it wouldn't have been much because obviously hookers were cheap back then. I'm only joking. I don't know. Nothing against hookers. Hookers are people too. Okay. So
again, we love everyone.
Anyway, guess whose number came out? Last one out of the hat.
Lucky Shane.
I said, we're doing it again. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. So they did it again. That was, I believe, 1989. That's pretty much it. So there was a lot of scare going around with age back then. In any case, in the I think 80s and more so 80s, late 80s. So, so gender, pride, and race. So I just want to let those listeners know that I'm not an expert. Have strong views on certain things, and the reason I do have strong views is because of the suffering I went through of my own creation. Obviously, the circumstances and environment at times of my life didn't help. It didn't exactly wasn't rainbows and unicorns. Let's put it that way. It was was challenging times for sure. I've mentioned before that I've done a lot of soul searching, and I seek the answers. And the place I'm coming from in this chat is based on certain research, but my views on my moral views, you could say, are very strong in the sense that there are core values and core things that create suffering, or that if you're strong in their certain values, it alleviates suffering. And so I'm speaking from a place of experience of me having expectations, having attachments, which means having an idea of certain things that are needed for fulfillment or for happiness. It's attachments is ideology that you attribute to fulfillment or happiness or needs. And often these needs, if they're external, they don't bring fulfillment, they bring entertainment, and they can make you happy to some degree. But you don't want to go through life and where only certain experiences bring happiness. You want to, this is how I see it, you want to learn to find a sense of fulfillment and happiness throughout your day without needing external stimulus. Let's put it that way. So first thing is attachment. On that, the whole gender aspect, I feel, is an attachment to an idea. And actually, I like to just talk about ideology. I'm talking about ideas, attachment and ideas. So you have a certain idea, you create an attachment to that idea for a sense of fulfillment. I saw a guy was talking about people that were in the Auschwitz, or people that were in the German camps, or prisoner of war camps. And they were saying that with certain camps or certain people, when they were released, they couldn't go live in the city. And this is a perspective, and I don't know for sure if it's true, but this is what he's claiming, and it seems to be valid from what he was saying. But he was saying that when these people left the camps, they went to villages outside of the city. And I don't know why there were certain conditions on them. I really don't know. Maybe it was just still within Germany or so. I don't know. But they said that these people lived in the same camps as the guards, and they lived in certain communities, and at times lived in the same building or adjacent to each other. And they said that a lot of the guards actually took their own lives. And what they were saying was that the guards, and this is what they had trouble dealing with, they truly believed that what they were doing when they're beating and punishing and being harsh with the prisoners, they believed they were justified and they were doing the right thing.
Yeah. And
then my understanding is that they realized it wasn't the right thing, and that what they were sort of fooled in a way, and they had to, the conscience came back because the facade, the ideology was broken.
Yeah.
And this guy was saying that the danger, the risk is, and to create a new society in a sense with potentially socialism, communism, and that sort of thing, and I don't stand for those things at all, is that ideology is the crowbar that wedges society and morality and displaces everything. So it's like an ideology is like, this is my ideas, and it's intangible. So these ideas can potentially never be reached. They can't actually be achieved. And this is where they say, the Karens would just go and pick all sorts of things. So the Karen would go and attack almost everyone. And actually, funny enough, there was a Karen today at work. So I won't say that. There's a Karen today when I was helping my mate. We're in Guildford. And this lady came to the driveway. I was helping a mate out. And she said, and she's pointing to the truck. And when she mentioned the truck, her voice went, truck, like as if there was emotional attachment to the truck. There's a big truck parked on the side of the road, like by this park. And I said, oh, yeah. And she, is this yours? I said, no, sorry. I thought you were delivering something, but yeah, no. And then she wandered over to some council workers working in this park. And this is a really well-kept park. And she said, it's okay then, before she wandered off, she said, so I'm talking about ideology still. She said, this truck, it's not meant to be parked under a tree. And it was a big truck, and they're working in the park itself, but it was parked between two trees, and maybe part of the branch was over part of a small part of the truck, but it was parked between them, but not, they weren't even offering it shade. It was between them.
Yeah.
And she walked over the park and got the workers to move the truck, but they're working in the park, but they moved the truck anyway. Then she's walking with a purpose. She jumped in the car, drove down again. There's two other council workers driving into the park with utes.
Mm.
So as she drove to near a corner, there's no markings on the road, but as you get towards the end of the road, there's a roundabout there, and as you're getting closer to the roundabout, there's white lines marked to separate both sides of the road. So not far from the corner, she stops. She doesn't pull over the side. She blocks completely the left lane. There's no one behind her though. It's not a busy street.
Yeah.
And she just stops there, like between the white line and the curb, and just got out of the car and walked over to the council workers. So she's basically, if there's cars coming the other way from the roundabout and cars wanted to behind her, they'd be stuck behind her because she didn't pull over, she didn't park, she blocked the left side of the road before the roundabout because she's on a mission to go over and have a go at the council workers about possibly the truck or moving the utes or something, or making sure they didn't park under a tree. Okay. It's crazy. And I'm thinking, so
she's breaking the rules to tell someone else that they're breaking the rules.
Yes, and this is the thing with the ideology. It's like, no, I'm here doing the right thing, so I can park where I want, do what I want. The rules don't apply to me, but everyone else. And she was ready to attack us because she thought I might have been driving the truck.
Yeah.
And these people, there's positioning, the social justice warriors. There is an absolute double standard, and their ideology basically says, well, I'm policing this, so that don't apply to me because I'm doing a service. Yeah. So she's doing a disservice to anyone trying to get past her that's on the road, the public street. But that's cancelled out by her trying to do a service by making sure there's nothing under a tree. When you're strong enough in ideology, morality and common sense doesn't matter. It's your agenda that matters. And this is the thing with, I feel, pride. Be proud of yourself. Why not? But no one else has to be proud of me or what I do. And it's nice if your friends are, but Joe Blow down the street doesn't care, and why should I care? So this whole pride thing, like, I don't care what you do in your privacy, like, and it's okay. You know, if you want to wear a dress and walk down the street, then do that, but don't make it sexual. I don't think it's right to be sexual in public, no matter where you stand, in whether you're straight, gay, trans, whatever. I don't think sexuality should be done in public, and shouldn't be. And if you don't jump on the bandwagon and celebrate someone else's sexuality, then you're homophobic. If that's what it is to be homophobic or transphobic, then I am, because I will never stand for that. If that's their interpretation, then I am, as far as their interpretation goes, not as far as mine goes. If you want to dress up, dress up.
Yeah.
But as soon as it becomes sexual, there's something wrong. 100%. If you're a guy and you're asserting you're typically stronger, some people may think it's not true, but it is. Otherwise, there'd be no men and women's sports. It'd be all one. Yep. So that's cancelled out then and there with all the other stuff. I'm not saying some women aren't stronger than men. Of course, some are. But the elite of the men versus the elite of the women, the men are stronger. That's just how it is. It's not personal. Yeah. Women have other attributes. Often they're faster, as in their reaction time. Doesn't mean their leg strength is faster. In sprints, who's got the fastest times in the world? Men, not women. So, but women may have, I believe, a quicker in some ways, but they're not as strong. And everyone has amazing abilities. And you don't have to go, well, my amazing ability trumps a man's or this person, that person's. It doesn't apply. It's apples to oranges. Human spirit's the same, but the other stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I really feel the pride side of things. If you want to know if it's okay or not, if it's not sexual, it's okay. The mind boggles that people do twerking, and even a guy in his underwear, that's sexual.
Yeah. And they're doing it in front of toddlers and kids.
Yeah, it's 100%. And if someone started doing that, like, I'd walk away in disgust. I would be, this is just me, I'd be ashamed. So the ideology supersedes, like I was saying, morality. What benefit do you get by sexualizing your children?
Yeah.
What do you want them to want the children to start having sex young? Like, is that
It's
what,
grooming.
as a parent, is that what exactly? So the only person, and as the way I see it with the governments around the world, if you're for story time, then it is real clear, and hopefully it doesn't get censored, but you're a pedophile. If you want story time, and anyone that supports that, you have pedophilia tendencies. And as far as I'm concerned, you're a pedophile if you want to do sexual things in front of children. There's no other explanation as far as I'm concerned. And if you're a young woman or guy that may not have those tendencies, but you're supporting it, sexualizing a child is not empowerment. It's not liberating. There is nothing empowering about it whatsoever. Like, I don't even get how they can even twist it, but what's the word? Or liberating. It's not liberating either. Like, you can't liberate a child by putting dirty sexual energy around children. Like, we need to really get a sense of, like, I'm aware that a lot of people have been abused on multiple levels, and there's nothing to be, if you're a victim, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It wasn't your fault if you're a victim, for sure. And you shouldn't be ashamed of yourself. But the energy, the sexual energy that comes out from the perpetrator is shameful.
Yeah.
It is. So it's not to immerse the victims in shame at all. They should love who they are, and their essence, their soul cannot be tainted in any way. I truly believe that. But the sexual energy that they've gone through is traumatic. It's shocking. It will be a hard thing to recover from. It really would. But it doesn't mean that the energy is good, and it doesn't mean that we should promote that energy on anyone. And if you've been abused, and I can accept it and get over it, and yeah, it's all okay, and the energy's fine now, and we can put that sexual energy that I do recover from 5, 10, 20, 30 years, that sexual energy that's impacted me, I can now put it on our children, the same sort of sexual energy. Yeah. That's shocking. There's a wise old monk saying, give me a child for the first 7 years and I'll have them for life.
Yeah.
Spirituality is about overcoming your conditioning. And as you break through that, you become more free and more fulfilled. And, children, if you give them a great upbringing, can break through a lot of stuff quickly because they haven't accumulated or embedded shocking conditioning. They can be more liberated, more free. They can have less burdens to overcome if you bring them up right. Mm-hmm. But if you just say, put or invoke all this sexual energy around them and make them think, make them believe, or encourage them to believe that that's normal and it's acceptable, then they're basically just like the little creatures that live in the mud that think that's the realm they live in. There's no other way but mud. Like, there's, you know what I mean? It's like you never see the sun, you never see fresh, clean water. You think living that's your environment and that's what life is all about. You'll never be fulfilled there. And people think, I don't know what I'm talking about, but externally, and I've been around great masters, external pleasures will never fulfill you. And it's amazing as you get in touch with yourself and let go and discover your worth, your value on a deep level, your inner peace becomes more external, but it starts from inner. And it's always inside outward. It's never outward inward. The outside stimuli and the outside pleasures will always fade. They will not last very long at all. And you'll have to, and the entrapment is, and I think this is what the elites, you could say, for lack of a better word, they do. They encourage people to chase external pleasures and external stimuli to find a sense of parting fulfillment, you could say. And it's just wrong. It's opposite. It's absolutely opposite the direction we need to be going in. So
I'm just wondering, how would someone with a trans issue, how would you say that this is something they can apply to them? Because at the moment they feel like everyone needs to tiptoe around them and respect their demands. How is this something they can apply to themselves?
That is a great question. The answer is in the same direction. It's stop going outward and start going inward. You have to look within. It's like changing your gender. Firstly, I don't agree. There's two genders, and let's just be real. I'm not going to pretend, and I'm not going to go along with something that will not make you happy, make anyone happy. You might like the way you look, you might like becoming the opposite sex, but you don't need to change. This is the way I see it. Maybe I'm too traditional, but you don't need to change your body. You can your preference with male or female, it's up to you. As long as you don't hurt anyone and you don't have to be outwardly out there. You don't need to change your body. You can have your preferences and use your full facilities. And like I get it where some people may have been abused or attacked, or if you're a woman, you might want to look like a man because you feel vulnerable and that sort of thing. Like I understand in a sense, you don't need to fully change your body though. You can dress a certain way. You can, and that's not to say, oh, if you dress this way, I'm saying that, you ask for it yourself, you bring it on yourself. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how you dress, how you have your hair, how you walk, how you talk, how you do everything is up to you. I don't agree with the whole transgender and changing your body. There's a number of reasons. The first one is like kids can't have tattoos, they can't vote, they can't drink, they can't drive, yet they can change their body. That's insane. And it gets fully paid for. I know in America it gets fully paid for with insurance or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's insurance or so. But like the first thing, number one thing, it takes years, probably decades off your life. So I won't stand for something that does that, full stop. So that alone, it's like, well, you don't care about transgender. No, actually I do. I care about their life. I'd rather them live a long time and find fulfillment and not be reliant on drugs and find the, hey?
No, I was just going to interject here with the stats are saying that, the suicide rate is highest in trans people, but what they tend to omit is that within the group of the trans, it's the ones that have gone through the change, the physical sex change, had the surgery, that's where it is highest. So, I mean, that just tells us that it's not making the change that they need to make themselves happy, because again, it's an external that they're focusing on.
Yeah, they're less fulfilled and they take their life and
that's right.
And what I've seen with videos and certain things, there's plenty of trans out there that's changed their mind.
Yeah.
There's a number of them where they change their mind on the surgery, they want to revert back to their original body, you could say, as best they can, and that there is no support. It's all one way. With this whole pride stuff, it's rubbish in the sense that it's projecting outwardly everything that you're seeking within yourself. It's forcing people to validate your ideology. And it's amazing, a lot of these people that are forcing their views on others, that don't accept anyone else's view. I saw this guy barking in this priest's face and all these people, transgender people, and I'm not saying they're all bad at all, but they all jumped on the bandwagon and was barking at this pastor. So there's no respect. There's no, they could have just walked around him, but they were in his face. It's really simple. If you want to understand or know if something's okay to do or not, reverse it. Have all these priests standing around. Imagine all these priests standing around and this one transgender. And could you imagine all those priests barking the transgender's face? Like, it's real simple. Let's just tell it like it is. Racism goes both ways. If it only goes one way, that is racism. It's really simple. It's not rocket science at all. If you want to know if it's okay or not, where some people talk and bag people that are white, it's like, okay, if you get someone saying, so it might be a black or Hispanic or whoever saying, I don't like white people, I don't like this. If you put a Hispanic or a white person there saying that about blacks or Hispanic or whatever, you reverse it. If that's not okay, then the other's not okay. It's really simple. It's not rocket science. It's ultimate common sense, and ideology throws it out the window and creates division. That's it. It's real simple. So I think you were going to say something and I was just passionately going, blah, 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 blah.
That's okay. I was just thinking that one of the things they do preach is tolerance and inclusivity, and they only themselves will be tolerant and inclusive if you go with their agenda. If you don't, they're complete opposites. So it's a huge contradiction on their behalf.
Completely. And that's like the media, like they're all for being censored or censoring others. The majority votes when the majority wins, or the minority wins, so to speak. Yeah, it's all double standards. It's so obvious to someone with half a brain. So,
Yeah.
which that includes me. Some people might think I've only got half, but it works well. I'll say that. So maturity is about being resilient and being able to reason. Sorry, I'll say it again. Maturity is about being resilient and being able to reason. If you cannot reason, you are not mature. Full stop. So like this isn't rocket science. I didn't have to go to school for this. I just had to be challenged in life and seek understanding. It's really simple. You don't need to complicate things. No one needs to complicate things. If you're not resilient and you're not able to reason, you are not mature. I don't care what age you are, and a lot of young ones that are passionately speaking their minds, and that's okay. But if you shut down or call people a racist or homophobe or transphobe because you don't want to hear what they have to say, you are still being a child. You're pretending to be an adult. You're pretending to know what you're talking about, but you have no clue, because there are conditions, and the conditions are you be quiet and accept what I say, and I don't have to listen to a word you say. If it's not balanced both ways, if it doesn't come back even, if you don't allow others what you want them to allow you, then you're wasting your time. And I wouldn't bother even trying to argue with these people. They're pretenders and they have no idea. And I'm speaking from experience because I had to seek understanding. I had to learn to be resilient. I had to understand other people's values. I'd understand other people's opinions and stay centered without losing the plot. And I grew up with an era where you had to learn these skills, otherwise you wouldn't survive. I'm a Gen Xer anyway, as you are, aren't you? Gen X.
Yes.
So we had to toughen up and then find the balance and then not stay tough. We're very resilient, and we had to deal with our crap. We couldn't just shut the door, shut someone out, or just scream at them. We grew up in an era where you had to respect your elders, and I don't necessarily believe that. I believe respect has to be earned, but you can't shut someone down because you don't like what they say, especially if they're being reasonable. It's amazing that a lot of people that are, well, there are people that are very passionate, come across very strong, and you could almost say they're so passionate that they're overbearing, and they still have a voice. And then someone else that isn't anywhere near as overbearing, they won't even listen to that person. And if they're being reasonable or speaking with normal voice, they'll just go behave erratic. Like, it is an insane age in a way. And people that behave like that, they are borderline insane.
Yeah.
Because there is no capacity to reason. If you can't reason, then there is no real society. Society is out the window.
Yeah.
It's backward. There is no way forward. And a lot of these ideologies, if not all of them, I dare say all of them, they're intangible. You can't actually describe what it looks like. And with race, for example, sorry?
So, no, I was just going to say, I think a lot of this, that in the extremes, is emotionally based. So all these people, they seem to react on the emotions. As soon as the emotion is heightened, just incrementally, they lose it. That's when they start screaming, and no rationale, no nothing. And it's all based on emotion. So we all have to tiptoe around someone's emotion because they may get offended, or they may look at something in a way that the emotion is slightly off, the average, and we can't live like that.
No, yeah, it's emotionally charged for sure.
Yeah.
And that's society's doing that, and indoctrination and everything else. It's just, yeah, you can't reason with someone that's unreasonable. It's impossible. You can take that home. You can't reason with someone that's unreasonable. So full stop, don't even bother.
Yep.
So, and I feel society, and if you watch mainstream media, it's all based in television like that's telling you what to see. It's programming your mind. You've got to get off mainstream media. You have to challenge everything that you're being told. And like, let's look at the race side of things. It's amazing with slavery and with everything that's gone on. Actually, another story, I mentioned this in one of my other chats, where I've got a good mate of mine, Pero, who grew up in Bosnia, and he and an Aboriginal guy came to his workplace, and this guy was very emotionally charged and was talking about how oppressed he is, and this is a very controversial chat, but whatever, it's okay. And emotionally charged, and he was playing the victim in a way. And I'm not saying he hasn't had challenges this life. And Pero and everyone liked this and appreciated him saying this. And Pero put his hand up and said, "Oh, so when is it done? When is it finished?" He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Because Pero was forced to fight in the war. He's told me some shocking stories, and like he's been through a lot of oppression, suppression. Like had a lot. Had his life on the line. Seen people shot. His friends died next to him. He's had mates that took their life, and he's contemplated it himself. And he's been through a lot. And he's an amazing man for what he's been through. So if anyone can ask this question, if anyone's down the right, he has. And like he used to like bite his tongue and have trouble sleeping and gone through all sorts of things. And he had some pretty bad experiences, even with the psych. He said he just over talking, and they weren't saying much. It was his experience, and he thought, what's the point in going here? He's not getting any help. So he started looking into self-help and reading books and that sort of thing, and listening to other people's journeys and success stories and how they've actually recovered and gone through hell. So that inspired him. But he said to this Aboriginal guy, and no disrespect here, of course, but he said, "When's it over? When's it done?" He said, "When are you going to be over it? Like when are you done with your oppression?" Yep. And the guy was just stunned. He doesn't know Pero's story, and Pero's 60 odd or something. It's like, who's this guy? And you can tell that he's Bosnian. He speaks with an accent. It's not always easy to understand. But it's like, who is this guy asking me? The guy doing the talk, he hadn't been through the oppression he'd been describing. And not saying he hasn't had a tough time, but he's emotionally charged. The same ideology, or same with having ideology and being emotionally charged based on stuff before his time. You can find things every day. You can find millions of things to emotionally charge you if you want to. I choose peace and fulfillment. I don't like walking around emotional. I've been there, done that. And I choose to never go there again. And I have gratitude. I'm thankful for what I have, and I've been cleaned out before, and I had a big business. I lost it all, and I live simply now, and I would not change anything for what I've come to understand within myself. No money. I would exchange no money for the wisdom that I've found within myself. That's not saying I'm wiser than anyone else. It means that I found a deep level within me that fulfills me. I'm speaking of what I feel within myself. And if you're not fulfilled, or anyone listening is not fulfilled, then that's a journey for yourself to find that, that space where you feel satisfied with your level of fulfillment and happiness. And you can unravel and discover that if you choose. But being emotionally charged, you will never find it. And it will create disease as you age. Dis-ease within self. It will manifest it. I truly believe. So back to people being charged with slavery and everything.
I think it's a great question to ask. Where does it end? To anyone that feels that they're suffering, or they're hard done by, or that they need reparations from someone else in order to move on, or they're holding on to some grudge, they feel that, someone owes them something and I cannot move on until I have their forgiveness. Where does it end? And even if they do get an apology or whatever, will that then be the end? And, I think a lot of people need to kind of reflect on that.
It's intangible. It's an idea that will never be fulfilled. Because that idea and that ideology is being charged every afternoon when you watch TV, it's in the YouTube that you watch, in the little memes and all things and the social things that you watch. It's been charged daily by people saying the same thing. So you get over, you might get an apology, and then boom, everyone else needs to change. More people need to change. We're being suppressed, being oppressed, blah, 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 you know. So it will never end. There's another wise old saying is, where you focus is what you're worshipping.
Yeah.
So wherever you focus becomes what you idolize.
Yeah.
And if it's suffering, then you're manifesting suffering daily, and it will only get stronger. So where does it end? It never will, unless, well, not when you're relying on others to change. When you change, it begins to end. So I say again, when you change, it begins to end. If people around you change, you look to change more people around you and more people around you, and no one will ever fully agree with you. So it's self-perpetuating. I'm going to just ask another question regarding, where does it end? It doesn't end when you're triggered and blaming things outwardly. This is a profound question. Where does it begin? That's even more profound in a way, because it's the tyrannical people that are in charge of a country that are selling slavery. So who's buying slaves? Another country that has other tyrannical people or governments controlling that population to say slavery is okay. Let's buy some slaves from that country and bring them into our country. So, like, if I was running a country, me being me, and but no point, and maybe it's a cultural thing, me with my acceptance and understanding now, who knows how it was, hundreds of years ago. Within myself, slavery is never acceptable, never.
Yep.
So let's say I ran this country, like, I'm not buying slaves. I will not accept slavery in this country. It's unacceptable.
Yep.
So instead of blaming the people that are under the politicians, maybe we should direct all our animosity at the politicians. So it's like, well, the politicians allowed this to happen, and the politicians go, oh, these people, you people, or the peasants here, so they're treating everyone like peasants, and the politicians saying now slavery, it's inherent racism, blah 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 blah. But it was a result of the political decisions they made. So they're stirring and blaming the people in America and the people of each country. Go, oh, it's the people's fault in a way. It's like, no, it's not. It's got nothing to do with the people. They ruled and lived within the government, the governing bodies that created all these policies, and live under their rule, so to speak. And whether you could trust elections or not, but voted them in to some degree, and governments keep assuming more and more control all the time. And there's only one group of people that you should be looking at, and that's the government. So you stop blaming your neighbor, next door neighbor, and the person down the street, in the shop, and the little kids growing up and everyone else. Stop blaming all those people. The government that ruled the country made the policies. Stop projecting your anguish and anger that's stirred by the government, by the people ruling. They're the ones stirring, and the media. Stop letting them stir you into blaming Joe Bloggs down the street or Joe Blow down the street. It's insane. It's ridiculous. We need to stop doing that and look at where it all started from. It started from the people that had the most power in the countries that could actually capture slaves and sell them into markets across the world by these other governing bodies. It's got nothing to do with the people. I'm sure cultures and tribes probably had slavery, but I don't think it's moral. I don't believe in it whatsoever. So we need to stop looking outward and looking to blame everyone, and just going, oh, I see it everywhere, because you might look for it everywhere, and you might have a go, in social media, you get people having a go at other people, and the other people don't even know what's going on sometimes, like the Karens coming up and accusing someone, and the person's innocent, not trying to harm anyone, yet the Karens attacking them as if they have this person is just pure evil, and they don't even know half the time.
Yeah.
What a crazy world we live in. So I strongly recommend, if we want to heal, we need to stop blaming everyone and look to the government. And and see that they are fueling the fire. They want us to blame everyone that we meet, everyone that we see, and not them. And it's the governing bodies that have been, it seems, consistent in manifesting hatred. And this, as the saying goes, divide and conquer. They've been manifesting that for hundreds of years. So the governments that have made those decisions back then are still winning, because as long as they divide us and we need to stand together, doesn't matter what your race, doesn't matter anything. We need to respect each other and join together, and it's the only way we can actually have freedom and peace. That is it. And a society, the type of society that we all truly want. And I think if you have a certain ideology, it's for it to be respected and seen and valued. And that will never happen if you are projecting your ideas, which means you're projecting your anger onto people that don't even know what you're doing, that don't even know that you're seeing where your focus is, what you're worshipping. And the government, and once again, like I mentioned the government with, slaves and that sort of thing. The government is also pushing this, and so they're harming people. They're changing things. It's just like, seriously, what is the governing bodies? What have they done to earn our trust or respect? Nothing. I've seen videos on papers, and like I look at hearings and different things in America where they've actually done experiments on people, and in I think San Francisco, they did one for 20 odd years. There's all these things that the documentation comes out, and what do you think? They've stopped, and the people don't know. It's just crazy. JFK was saying that I've seen this information before, but he's saying he's obviously found it, and it's been going around that the vaccinations, for lack of a better word, it's a military job, and they basically paid Pfizer and other pharmaceutical companies to put their brand on it to give the impression it's a vaccination.
Yep.
So it's another psyops or another military experiment, use deception around the world. So we need to stop. If the government are supporting something, seriously, we need to question it. I'm not attacking Australia in particular, so hopefully this video stays. They've done nothing to earn our trust, and with slavery, with hundreds of years ago or whenever it was, and sorry, don't mean to be ignorant, but I don't know the exact date, but the transgender movement, destroying people's chance to have children, taking decades off their life. Hate me if you like. You may not like what I say. I do not want people to have an early life. I'd rather live to the fullest as long as possible. I'd rather them seek fulfillment. And with the question you asked before, where they go, it's self-fulfillment, self-nurturing. If people have changed their gender through abuse, the abuse was done to you. It's not who you are. And there's a lot I'm not saying it's easy to overcome, but the inner you, the divine aspect of you cannot be blemished, cannot be touched. It is a divine spark that is always pure. It's indefilable, and that's in every single being. I truly feel that. And some people might turn their back on certain things. I'm not saying there aren't people that are evil, because there are, or that do evil things. I've mentioned this before, that I feel that the more you are away from your heart and that divine spark, the less you feel the darker things, the more evil things you have to do to feel something. And it all gets twisted and murky. It's such murky waters, and turning people, changing their body outwardly would have to mess them up on the inside. There has to be so much trauma going on there. So I feel for these people. I really do. But changing your body is not the answer. You'll not be fulfilled. Dress up as a man, dress up as a woman if you want to. And there's no harm in that, providing you don't harm anyone and project, and other people don't have to accept. They don't have to play along. And how you dress at home, and you might want to express yourself in certain ways, and that's fine, even in public, as long as you're not being sexual and you don't project anger and animosity everywhere you go, because that's going to stir things. So it's about how you feel within yourself. It's about how you project yourself, and it's about doing it in the most wholesome way. So, and the reason I say that is because, and not to sexualize things, is because as you become wholesome and pure, as in pure intent, because purity can be misconstrued as pure intent of harming no one. The reason I said no thing, because there is a Buddhist saying that I love, is harm no, and something like this, but I love it. It's harm no thing, not even in your mind, and cultivate the heart. I love that. If we live by that sentiment, and that is it for me. That is everything. So if you're struggling, if one is struggling with the identity, you can dress up to mask it, but you can't actually change it. In reality, in this illusional realm, I know it's a realm of illusion, but you don't need to. And I mentioned this before, that I really feel if you're not sure of what's what, then you really have to start nurturing yourself on a deep level, deeply nurture yourself, find fulfillment, find peace, and you've got to have to go through the turmoil of your mind to start finding it. But and people that identify as not a man or a woman, well, to some degree, you could say the soul is androgynous, not man or woman, or it could be both man and woman. But it is the balance of energies. If you identify as neither, it's just the way I see it. It's just, if you're not man or woman, then you're not even the universe, because it's a mixture of both energies. It's the balance of the left and right, or yin and yang, or whatever we call it. It's energy. It's just energies. And that's not to say it's not profound. It's extremely profound, extremely deep. We put a name of half the universe's energies as masculine, half the universe's energies as feminine. But that's what we call it. You can take the name off it. It's still balanced. It's still perfect. Yeah. People associate the feminine and masculine with certain energies, but it's neither or it's both. It's either all illusion or it's not illusion. They are both sides to the balance. And if you turn your back on half, you'll never be fulfilled. So I really feel, and I've gone through change in how I am within myself, where I became more feminine when I had deep insight within myself. And I love that fact. And I'm typically a nurturer before anything. I think the feminine aspect is amazing and beautiful. It needs to be at the forefront of communication and that sort of thing. But I like Jordan Peterson when he says, you need to be dangerous, or you need to be able to, I'm paraphrasing, but harness that danger, that you need to be dangerous and not utilize it, but be able to access it.
Yep.
And that's where your strength is, not to be weak and weak-minded or weak in body or mind. It's about having the balance of everything, so you can earn respect. But there's nothing greater than a master or someone that's dangerous, that's humble, and that's full of love and peace and fulfillment. They are an inspiration. I really think changing the body isn't the answer. I'd rather people live longer, not shorter. I'd rather them be able to have children. So I will not support going through sex change. And if you want to, I wouldn't turn my back on anyone. Like, if someone went through a change and they come and saw me, I'd help them as best I could and offer insight and help them discover themselves. But if someone saw me, or, let's say I had chats with someone on my experiences and understandings, they would possibly regret changing their body, because they'd realise at some point, I'd like to think, that I didn't need to. The more outward you are, the greater you suffer. That is it. And the more attached to certain things. There's another saying, I love these sayings, that it doesn't matter what your preference is, it's the attachment to your preference that creates suffering. So have your preferences, but if it's all or nothing, you're going to suffer. I strongly recommend you discover your amazing inner beauty. It'll be beyond your dreams, beyond your imagining, I feel, and what you'll discover within yourself. And the journey that we've been on, even individually, it's been profound, the things that we've discovered within ourselves and the things that we realise we can do or discover we can do from the last few years and stuff. And I know for yourself, you've really gone, wow, I've found this and can do these things very quickly. And it's by discovering who you are, not by trying to project who you are. And this is the difference. People project who they want to be based on a misunderstanding of who they are. And I'd rather be open-minded and discover who I truly am and watch it unravel and express because as you discover who you are, that self-expression, that inner knowing will express itself outwardly, and you'll be amazed at what you can do. I truly believe that's for everyone, if you're willing to walk the journey and discover who you truly are. And once again, if it floats your boat to dress up as a man or a woman, that's okay, but don't force it on anyone. And there's no judgment, but I don't support people changing their gender, but I would not judge them for doing that. I believe that there's trauma there or certain things that they feel they want to run from. And once again, the bottom line is I don't want people to live less. I'd rather live longer. And the videos I've seen of people that have gone through the change, some of them say they've got maybe 10 years left, or it's a stance on wanting you to live longer, not less. And we touched on the other stuff for the parades and that sort of thing. So I really think talk to someone, and it's hard. It can be hard. Governing bodies are pushing for transgenderism. I really think, here's an idea, a thought. Take a journey for a couple of years, a spiritual journey where you really nurture yourself deeply and discover your amazing abilities and discover more things about yourself, which is neither male or female. Or if you don't like your masculine body, try and discover why, or feminine body, try and discover why, and see yourself as a spiritual being rather than an object. And then discover your abilities. And if you deeply go into yourself and discover you want to change your gender, then if you want to change it. I still don't fully support that. Well, I'm not going to be and I would never encourage anyone to do that. Let's put it that way, because I truly believe that we're here beyond our body. We are a spiritual being in a physical body, and I feel the physical body is secondary to the spiritual being by a long shot. You can't even compare the two. They are worlds apart. We need to focus on the inner world. In the outer world, you will never, ever be fulfilled. Like, it's not sustainable. Because let's say, for example, well, we all age. So you might be in your prime at late 20s or so, and as you age to 40, 50, 60, 70, your body doesn't matter so much. And if you've gone through the change, the transgender, you had a sex change, you'd be lucky to hit 60 or 50 potentially. You've got to be in medication for the rest of your life. The big pharma makes stacks of money off you. Everyone does. Where's your mental health? They want to change your gender without giving you even health advice. It's disgusting. So you're working on something and risking your life, your health, years of your life for something that might last 10 years, 20 years, and then you're way past your prime. Your body's going to age, and it'll certainly age far quicker if you're on medication. You have to be on it all the time. You'll lose it. As you age, you might look more feminine or more masculine. You don't know which way, how your body's going to age anyway. So all of a sudden you start losing, the body loses its zest. And then all you have then is the inner fire. And if you haven't focused on that inner fire, the inner spiritual, or that spiritual aspect, when you're old, well, you can start working on it then, but you're way behind the eight ball. You're years behind where you could be because your focus has been shallow. That's just what I feel. So if you discover the inner you as you get older, you find that the body doesn't matter so much. Not saying you won't work on it, you're not saying you won't train or exercise, but it's amazing that we'll finish up shortly. But as you age, I remember talking to my mates at 18. I cracked jokes a few years ago when we all got together. 18, you're talking about women, and then you get older and you're talking about different other things, and then work, and then our age talking about food. I can't eat this, or we're talking about the garden. I cook this. My garden has this now. It's like, yeah. And I made a joke to my friends. I said, it's amazing. 20, 30 years ago, we used to make fun of people like us. When you're old, talking about this, I can't eat that. And I said, here we are. And we all had a bit of a laugh. So when you get older, and I dare say you don't get anyone 40 or virtually anyone 40 odd or 50 odd going through a sex change, because when you hit at least probably by 40, you start looking at what you eat. You start looking at your health, because you find you don't eat, certain things are going to impact your body, or your body doesn't function as well as it should. So naturally, and this is, people don't just consider these things, naturally start looking at your diet and how it impacts your body and how it impacts everything. And you don't focus so much on your looks. You might, but even then you might take certain things or medication or minerals or whatever else but your health is the number one thing from 40, especially at 50 and 50 onwards. Health is the number one thing. And if you get there as a transgender, it will be a major concern to focus on health. So it's a natural progression in our psyche with pretty much everyone as they get older, their focus changes. So if you're 50 transgender, you're 20 and you get to 50 if you're lucky, which you may well not, and all the stuff you're beyond, like what can you do? You take more medication, your heart's going to give out. Like there's a sacrifice for all medication you take, it impacts another part of your body, and then you've got to take more tablets and more tablets. It's just, I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. You might get 10 years of your life in a certain way, and it might be nice, maybe you get to express yourself, but it'll last 10, 20 years if you're lucky, and then you're on the old train with everyone else, and your priorities will change. That's why I think we must look beyond our bodies, and we need to consider the future. And like I've said this to my son, and we are going to finish up. I said to my son, if you want to know a direction, I keep saying that, talk for hours, but project yourself, see, and it's really good to do this, and you have to be calm and just relaxed to do this, but you can get better at it. And if you're not used to trusting your intuition, yeah, this is a way to try and get in touch with it. But the more you're in tune, the easier this comes, this whole practice I'm going to tell you. Project yourself. So project yourself into, if you see yourself as a transgender, okay, you might have different friends, you might get different attention, you might feel different. Project yourself then 10 years down the track. So you imagine yourself 10 years down the track, and then 20 years down the track, and then 30 years, and go, okay, 30 years I'm on medication. Do some research, look into it and think, okay, I'm going to have these issues. I'm going to be faded. I'm going to be all saggy. I'm going to have this, or maybe you'll have plastic surgery. But at what cost will it impact your lifespan? You have to look at these things. Do you want to live longer? Do you just want to live another 10, 20 years? Like do you want to have children or do you not want to have children? You have to consider these things. And then look at, okay, how will I feel? I'm on my own. I'm at home. I'm changed, I'm on medication, no one will maybe see me so much, or I'm going to be living here doing this. Don't just look at the bad, and don't just look at when you're entertained with friends. Look at when you're on your own, how you're going to feel. At least if you do these things and look at the choices you make, there's few catalysts. If I go this way, full transgender, this is going to happen. If I go this way and dress up and just do this, it'll phase out. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you can walk the same path without changing your body. And you can take your health with you, and you can actually have children potentially. And then if you can do that, then whichever decision you made, at least you can say you've thought about it and you've really contemplated the possibilities going forward beyond this very moment. So that's what I say with that. And there's one other area of transvestites. Sorry, transvestites. Is that right? Transgender, transvestite. What's the difference between transvestite and transgender?
Transvestite, I think they just dress up as women, whereas the transgender, I think they actually have the gender reassignment. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, I'd much rather support a transvestite than a transgender. But one thing is, I have no tolerance for, once again, just brushing over sexualizing children. And if you want to dance and be sexual with like grown men with children, you're a pedophile, and you're a groomer, and that's sick, and I will not tolerate that. And this conversation, like, you still need to discover yourself and have a good hard look at yourself. And the bottom line is, harm no thing, not even in your mind, and cultivate the heart. And a man dancing sexually in front of children does not fall into any of those categories. I will not support anything they stand for. I will not give them the time of day. It's disgusting. And anyone that supports that, whether you're a governing body, like a government, politicians, there is only one way in my mind that you would allow that. The next step from that is having sex with children and legalizing it. If you support that, then, and if you just woke and go, I'm empowered, blah, 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 then you are supporting. And if you're not a pedophile, you're supporting pedophiles, and you're supporting their agenda of having, and the UN spoken about this, of lowering the age of consent. And you go, oh, yeah, I'll give you a lolly if you let me have my way with you. Like, you can deceive children so easily. And these people, they're trying hard to deceive adults. Of course, they're going to deceive children. And those parents that think they're being woke and encouraging people to dance naked in front of their children, they shouldn't be parents. They should not be parents, as far as I'm concerned. There is something mentally ill with these people that want to sexualize children. There is no excuse. So if people think I have no tolerance for that, it is true. I have no tolerance for people like that whatsoever. They need to go and have a good hard look at themselves. The best they deserve, these men dancing in front of children sexually, they should be in jail dancing in front of men or people of their own gender, not their assigned gender, their own gender, should be dancing in front of men tending to be children. That's the best they should get. They should be locked up at the very least. You know, people say MAPS, it's just ridiculous. They're pedos. And it's not a matter of, I don't want to hurt their feelings. No. If they're attracted to children, they need help. And that's for sure. And who knows, I don't know. Maybe they're being subjected to abuse. I think that happens a lot. But they need psychological help. And there's no way that normalise that it's okay, because it's never okay. And they need to seek help knowing that it will never be okay. Because consent and true consent and harming no one should be at the forefront of everyone's mind, and that is it. So that will never waver for me. It's always unacceptable. And these people that are supporting pedophiles need to wake up, because it's unacceptable and it will never be acceptable. That's where I stand on that. So there is no tolerance for that side of things. You saw the two briefly where had that march in America, where we're queer, we're coming for your children.
We're coming for your kids. Yeah, saw that.
Yeah. That is disgusting. And these people are laughing, and you got, yeah, and they might think, oh, yeah. It's like, it's not cool.
No.
It's not cool to even joke around that. Like,
nope.
How could they even start that chant? And you've got, like, I don't know if they're all pedophiles, but you must consider at the very least that they probably could be. Why give anyone that's saying that, do not give them the benefit of the doubt. Never. And anyone that's dancing in front of children, do not give them don't take your children, just in case you haven't thought about that, to story time with men that like flashing in front of children. If you haven't thought about it, stop now and wake up, give yourself a bit of a slap in the mirror, because it's stupid. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, and then now all of a sudden it's fine. People are in America going naked at water parks and riding bikes. It's like they should be arrested. Like, why aren't they arrested? Because they're trying to push pedophilia? Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
There is a line between privacy and morality and to sexualizing. There is a line, and if you don't know it, it's not hard to figure out. Like, it's not hard to figure out. I know people that are gay that you never know they were, and it's like people shouldn't know whether I'm gay or straight. It doesn't matter, because I carry myself the same with respect and morals when I'm out and about. They don't need to know what my preferences are, because I carry myself respectfully and morally. That's how it is with you. That's how all my friends. That's how it is, and that's how it should be. That's traditional in that sense. Like, why the hell should I expect people to accept me sexualizing myself in public? They should not. A lot of people need to wake up, but the majority have and don't support this, I believe. So anyway, they're my views. Pretty strong in areas, supportive in others, and there you have it. So I think you're pretty much in alignment with all those things. Is that right, Linda?
100%.
Of course you are.
100%.
So cool. So anything to add? Probably been longer than 5 minutes. So no, it's been, I don't know how long, but I could, it's hard. I can talk for hours on these topics. Yeah, cool. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening in to episode 62. Take care, guys. Bye for now.